Welcome to this ultimate beginner's guide to Return to Moria. Probably one of the most surprising and unexpected games of 2023 and one of my favorites going into 2024. However, there is quite the learning curve, a lot of unique and cool features and some things that do need a bit of explanation before you get stuck into this fantastic game. Return to Moria is currently exclusive on the Epic Game Store. If you are considering picking it up, I really appreciate if you put SUPERSPANJ in the support or creator box when you purchase it. When you start Moria, you start in the dark. You immediately have to search for some wood to craft a torch, or too much time in the dark will cause the Dispair debuff to slowly kill you. The indicator in the bottom left here shows you how much dark you're in. In most cases, a torch or a source of light can alleviate the dark, but there are some depths where you must delve, where not even the most powerful torch can save you from the despair of darkness. Pay attention to the bar at the very bottom here, because this is how much time you have until you go into despair. Base building in Moria is unfortunately one of its weaker features. The game gives you a number of half-destroyed outposts that you can fix up to make bases, and it does try to push you to set up bases in predefined area. But the game does allow you to build pretty much wherever you like. The process itself is pretty simple, but it has an annoying fixed northeast-southwest grid. If you're trying to build in a half-destroyed building that's on a wonk, it just won't work. So the best places to build are those that the game kind of guides you to build at, such as forges and bases with hearths in them already. Most bases you build will just be stop-offs for fast travel stones and somewhere to sleep and repair. I imagine most players will find somewhere to have a main base and just use the fast travel feature from then on. More on that later. One of the best places to build is probably Elven Quarter. There's lots of natural light here for growing crops. There's elven wood, deer to hunt for meat and hide, and a unique herb you'll need for one of the best snacks in the game. More on that later too. If you do want to build your own underground fortress, you can, but the structural integrity is a bit of a nightmare. The snapping is frankly crap. Building anything bigger than a small bungalow becomes a real frustrating labor of love. Hopefully, this is something the devs will be improving on as the game matures. For now though, you do have the controls for building down in the bottom right to explain how to lower or move out, change the camera, and of course when you are building, there is this somewhat helpful grid on the floor to help you line up your pillars and walls and so on and so forth. Unlocking new schematics is done by repairing statues and ranger journals. You'll need a hammer and a good supply of stone or whatever material the statue needs. There tends to be a lot more statues around than are needed to unlock the tier of gear that area is giving up. So you will start to get iron and coal for repairing statues after you've unlocked everything in that area. Then you don't need to repair any more of those statues until you are in the next area. Another way of getting schematics is to repair ranger journals. Find little camps in some zones with a journal that can be repaired. You can find pages for the journal scattered around the zone, usually in boxes. Each journal page will say what area it is from, so you know what journal it can repair. There also tend to be a lot more pages about than are needed to repair a journal. Combat is easy enough. Equip a weapon and get swinging, but you should know, right click to block either with your active weapon or a shield will wear down that weapon or shield over time. And the larger the gap between the tier of your weapon or shield and the enemy, the quicker it will wear out. When it gets to almost breaking, the enemy will start hitting you even through an active block. So keep an eye on that durability of your weapon and shields. You should also know that you cannot block the attacks of some enemies, especially bosses. For these, you must roll, and that's simply control plus a direction. Armor is indicated by the blue bar and the blue gear pieces here. This represents how many free hits you can take before you start taking health damage. You take a lot more damage to your health than you do your armor, so you really need to look after your armor. Use block and dodge to preserve your armor and avoid hits. And don't forget that dodge does use stamina. I'm sure no one is surprised that different weapons are more effective than others against certain enemies. Mauls, for example, are good against armored enemies. Spears are a good one-on-one, and axes and swords are okay at everything. Two-handers are more powerful, but you can't use a shield with them. Eventually, you can enchant your weapons to make them much more effective. Pair the enchantment with the weapon's strengths to make them really swing. The Orcbane enchantment on Mauls, for example, is super effective against those pesky armored orcs. Stamina, like in most survival games with similar mechanics, limits how much attacking, dodging, and sprinting you can do. The amount of stamina you have greatly depends on your dwarf's current state and any buffs they may have and that max stamina will slowly diminish as buffs run out and your dwarf gets tired. There are a lot of buffs in Moria. Some come from doing normal tasks like mining or exploring. Others come from food, drink, rest, singing. You are a dwarf after all. You need a warm fire, a comfy bed, and a good meal to be your best and ready for battle. Moria gives a great number of different foods and beverages for you to explore as you delve the deeps. Different crafting stations like ovens, grills, and fire pits means you can put all those different foods and herbs you find to good use. So before you go out to face more orcs, goblins, or a boss, buff up, sleep, eat, drink, and honor the fallen. I know I just covered food, but there's more that you might like to know. As I said, there is a great array of dishes and meals for you to explore, and some are better than others. Each meal is either considered simple, reasonable, or complex, and each type have a different effect on your dwarf. Some give more health, some give more stamina, and some will give you more food for longer. So make sure you read the description of each dish to figure out which is best for whatever you're going to be doing next. The larger meals tend to give bigger and longer lasting buffs too, so make sure you pick up all the food you see as you explore. I guarantee you use it all. Well, except those damn cabbages. So many cabbages. Anyway, there are also snacks. Snacks are really important. Once you can make snacks, make snacks. These quick fixes mean you don't need to run back to the base every time you get hungry. You can have a quick snack and carry on exploring or fighting or mining or whatever. Snacks, such as breads, can also heal for a lot of health, so they work sort of like health potions, I guess. The breads are the most expensive to make though, so use them wisely. Once you find the Elven Quarter, you should see a small white tree near the entrance. You can harvest this tree once a day for a herb that you can only get from this tree. And this herb is needed to make lamnas bread. So try to work harvesting this tree into a regular routine when you are gathering resources. Speaking of finding things, navigating Moria can be a great and frustrating memory test. However, there is a map, but it's very unconventional. Until you know how it works, it can be very confusing to the point of useless. I will try my best to explain now. The zones and areas in the game are all linked together, but the order and direction that they are linked together is procedurally generated. Some fixed areas, such as the Elven Quarter, the Pump, and the many great forges of what's-its-name, will all be the same, but how you get to them will vary. Between each fixed zone will be dozens of filler tiles, and this is what you see on the map. Zones with unique shapes or large squares are typically fixed zones, like the Elven Quarter, etc. And the small squares in between them are usually filler zones. This can be a corridor section, cave junction, city areas, etc. The more you explore Moria, the more you will see these zones time and time again, just with perhaps some slight variations such as shadow, mushrooms, statues, etc. The map shows you each tile not as they appear to you, but as they are laid out by the game's procedural generation. Once you recognize unique zones and filler zones, navigating the map becomes quite simply left, right, or straight on. Zones that appear grayed out or a different shade from that light color means that they're either above or below where you currently are. You can also use the map to help you find the way forward. Zones with a connector on them means they lead to a new area. Zones with no connector means they are a dead end. It can save you a lot of running around, and there is a lot of running around in this game. Shadow. Well, you'll come across Shadow pretty early on. It's the purple mist. You need to avoid it as much as you can. Sometimes the game will put things in Shadow to tempt you. Don't worry, almost everything I have found in Shadow so far is not critical to success. You can ignore it. Eventually, you can craft a set of gear that will protect you from Shadow. Then if you really want to, you can go back and get that stuff. Shadow is part of the story of the game, so I won't explain more about what it is or why it's there. Just know if you go in, you will be cursed. You can wait out the curse if you have enough health, use snacks to heal through it if you must, otherwise it will kill you. Fast traveling around Moria is achieved via mapstones. You'll come across one in your first outpost, but you won't be able to repair it until you find black diamonds. More on that in a moment. Mapstones have to be touched to activate. In multiplayer, only one of your party needs to touch a mapstone, so if you are all over the place, you can get everyone together by placing a mapstone and touching it. Mapstones are automatically named by what zone they are in, but you can rename them, just a bit unintuitive. The best way of doing this is to stand next to the mapstone you want to rename. Open the map, On the list to the left, the closest mapstone icon will be the one you want to rename. Select it and rename it. It will rename it also in the mapstone menu. Oh, and one other thing. Fast traveling consumes your food bar unless you are well rested. So again, bring snacks. So, black diamonds. You'll start collecting black diamonds once you reach the mines of Moria. Some orcs drop them when killed, and you can also find them in boxes next to orc outposts. You can get the keys for these boxes by destroying the totem at the center of the outpost. You will get even more by killing the boss of Orktown and looting the boxes there too. Black diamonds are also used to repair gateways to new areas such as bridges, ladders, stairs, etc. So make sure you collect as many as you can. Eventually you will have so many that carrying some around for popping up the occasional mapstone will become routine. The deep dark deeps of darkness and suffering. These are quite easy to overlook if you are not paying attention, but can be the only source of certain resources you need to proceed. So you need to know about them. We found these deeps usually within dead-end filler tiles. At first glance there's nothing here, but there is a chasm with a wood walkway over it. Generally in Moria you want to avoid chasms, but this one you'll need to descend into. Bring wood, natural fiber to build rope ladders is the quickest way up and down in my opinion. If you can afford to, I would also bring the resources for a camp hearth and mapstone. Once you're down there, cleared out any of the enemies, build the camp hearth and mapstone straight away if you can. Get to work mining what you need down here. Waste no time because you are now in darkness and no number of torches or light sources will save you. Dispair is coming. These areas are usually quite small and only a few little enemies down here, so you can move fast, but you still may need to take several trips between eating, resting and buffing to get what you need. Once Dispair kicks in, or preferably just before, get out. Again, bring snacks if you need to heal through it, but that, in my opinion, is a waste of precious snacks. Return to Moria has a lot to offer, far more than I think was anticipated for this. It's good to finally see a Lord of the Rings game actually work and be good, and I highly recommend the game for those willing to delve into the Epic Game Store. There's a lot more to the game than I have explained here, but I do hope these tips will help you get into Return to Moria and hit the ground running. There's useful lore, and don't forget the journal in the inventory menu at the top here. All this can be useful if you find yourself stuck and not sure where to go next. The map markers, navigation and base building are the weakest elements of the game, and I really hope the devs do something about it. It's still a young game and the devs are updating it and they are taking on feedback. In all honesty, I think Return to Moria has got a bright future in the survival genre. And like I said, at the moment, it's my absolute favorite of 2023 and going into 2024. So if you have found this video useful, enjoyable, and perhaps you want to see some more from me, I greatly appreciate a cheeky little sub. I really appreciate it. And if you want to see more Moria content from me, check out my playlist of my live streams with the Chaos Crew of Return to Moria. You've seen some of the clips of our action in this video. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.